What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's Arza Chester coming at you with another video, and this time we're talking about a bunch of new statements made by the upcoming Snow White actress Rachel Zegler, as she's coming out and playing defense for her role and making even more controversial statements. So like, subscribe, and hop in, losers. Let's get into this one. So starting over at Bounding into the Comics, Disney's live-action Snow White star Rachel Zegler claims her criticism of animated original were intentionally misinterpreted. I've watched women get torn down my whole life, written by Spencer Bakuli. And this all originated back in 2022 during the D3 Expo, where Rachel Zegler was asked, I know you told me before that your version of Snow White is different and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that? To which Zegler responded, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. That's a big focus for her love story with the guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't want to do that this time. And in regards to that comment, Zegler recently came out and said that she understands that a lot of people took those words out of context and thought that there was a direct criticism of the film, which it was a direct criticism of the film, don't let her lie to you, but claims that that couldn't be further from the truth, in where she says, in all honesty, it made me sad that it was taken in such a way because I believe that women can do anything. To which she continues, I've watched women get torn down my whole life, my whole career. We'll watch it in the election that's upcoming. So of course, because it's Disney and it's a woman who's with all the funny brownie points, she has to of course bring this back to politics. Of course, the only reason people have an issue with her is because she's a woman. That's the only reason. Of course, it's all about tearing women down, and it's going straight to Kamala, how it's all just the mean bigots tearing Kamala down because they don't want her being in office. It has nothing to do with policy. It has nothing to do with the fact that Zegler is a terrible actress who made incredibly crude statements about the literal foundation of the Walt Disney Company, because Snow White created, essentially, the Walt Disney Company, as it was known up until about 2010, when the movie quality immediately plummeted to non-existent. And as described in another piece, Zegler not surprised by what she sees as people's willful misunderstanding of her comments. It's par for the course for an outspoken young woman in the public eye. No, it's not. You know what it's par for the course for? When you go out and you insult the movie that everyone cares about. When you go out and make denigrating statements about literally the cornerstone of American pop culture. No one gives a damn that Zegler's a woman. They care that she's an idiot. And that leads me over to this article from That Park Place. Report, before Rachel Zegler, Disney had two other Snow White actors of color in mind. And this is coming from WW Pro. Reportedly, during the WDW Pro show, the YouTuber Polly, who was a part of Latino Slant, Hail Latino Slant, came on to discuss the topics of this show, because by having a Latina actress, you are integrally tying this movie with the Latina community. And Polly from the Latino Slant and the entirety of the Latino Slant are very focused on Latino culture. That it's the center of their channel, and it's all about news in regards to Latino culture. He also is a part of Midnight Says Espanol, which is one of my favorite channels, Midnight Says that is, and is one channel that I use to help reinforce my Spanish when I'm studying. And he claims that he has information on some of the casting choices that were made, as well as some information about possible changes being made to Zegler's character, which were then later confirmed in an article by Variety. According to Polly, Disney has specifically indicated that they were open to all types, which may be coded in Hollywood for diversifying roles previously associated with someone of European descent. And Polly continues that the two leading candidates for Snow White were women of Latin American heritage, but the third runner-up for the role was an unnamed woman of African descent, basically proving without a shadow of the doubt that this entire movie was designed to be a publicity stunt. They wanted to race swap. It wasn't that they were open for any role. They explicitly were seeking out the chance to race swap to cause as much controversy as possible. Because back then, when this film was casted, they were under the idea that all publicity is good publicity, and that if you have a controversial movie, it's going to only increase viewership. And while that was true for a little bit, such as Ghostbusters 2016 and Captain Marvel, that's not the case anymore. The audience is bored of it. They also mentioned that it's a bit of a shame that they didn't go with the second up, who was Renata Vaca, because she is someone who generally stays out of the ire of the public or of the journalists. She has had a near controversial free time in Hollywood. And we also do actually now know what those changes that were made to Snow White's origin were, and they are, well, as creatively bankrupt as you can expect from Disney. Reportedly, they claim it fell back to another version of Snow White that was told in history, where she survived a snowstorm that occurred when she was a baby, Zegler explained. So the king and queen decided to name her Snow White. So great, she's the lame female version of Jon Snow. Glad to know. That's really just an overall dumb idea, and of course it's just nothing more than a way to play S.H.I.E.L.D. I've never heard that version of the story, and I don't think anyone I know has ever heard that version of the story. It's all just more covering their asses. This article also goes on to state the fact that Zegler claimed that she was inspired by actress Brandy Norwood, who was the first black actress to play Cinderella in the 1997 live-action remake, which no one has an issue with because it was done genuinely. So I decided to go through the Variety article, so you guys don't have to, because it is the definition of a puff piece, because it is so unbelievably bloated and full of nonsense. It is literally the definition of damage control as they do everything they can to try and make her seem more appealing, but they don't work, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand the criticisms. They think they get the criticism, but they don't understand it, and it's so painfully obvious. Because they really believe the problem is just that she's Latina. They truly believe that it doesn't matter who she played, people have an issue because she's a Latina actress. They don't seem to comprehend the fact that the reasons people don't like this casting choice is A, because it is an established character and they want that character seen as she is, B, because it was done for political reasons, and C, because she is an absolute loon who is hell-bent on insulting people, the legacy that she is supposedly drawing from, but instead is just shitting on, and that she's out here calling such a beloved story creepy, weird, and stalkerish. Now, the one thing I'll give this article for is they actually do talk about Zegler in the best light. She's slammed as just another DEI hire, coasting on her identity rather than her talent. I cannot believe they're being honest about what Rachel Zegler is. She definitely is a DEI hire, and there's no doubt about it. And it's even funnier when you read another line later in the article, where the director claims that a script supervisor wept upon hearing her singing voice. And guess what, Mark Webb? When you hear that someone's weeping at someone else's singing voice, that doesn't mean you hired them on it. It means you give the supervisor a pair of earmuffs. They don't have to listen to the atrocious thing that she's singing. You know that scene from Shrek where Fiona's singing to the birds? That's exactly what Rachel Zegler is going to be like. We're not going to have her summoning the birds, have her clean. She's going to be cleaning the exploded birds off of her goddamn walls. And what about good old Brandy Norwood? Well, she had something to say, and it's absolutely idiotic. You're doing this for every little Colombian girl who has yet to see themselves in a role like a Disney princess. You're doing this for the little girl you once were, who grew up without that representation of her Colombian culture. You are showing her that anything is possible for someone who looks like her, and that's the most important job in the world. Well, I guess all of you other girls can go fuck yourselves. I guess the Mexican little girls are just going to have to find representation somewhere else. The Brazilian little girls somewhere else. The fact that we're not even talking about representation from the race, but we're for the literal country, and say that you have to be Colombian, otherwise you aren't represented in this film. Here's a better idea. How about we go back to the old system, where everyone's represented by everyone? You know what? I watched The Princess and the Frog when I was a little kid. That movie that starred a black female lead, the black princess, who literally gets turned into a frog. Guess what? I've never been turned into a frog. I'm not a woman. I'm not black. But you know what? I can relate to that character on many levels. Pocahontas. I'm not Native American. Well, I'm more than Elizabeth Warren is, but that's about it. But you know what? I can relate to Pocahontas all the same. I can relate to characters who are nothing like me, because I'm not a narcissist. I've literally never seen a main character who matches the description that I do, so I don't want to hear this bullshit about needing to see yourself seen, because it's irrelevant. You don't need to be seen on TV, because in TV, it's not you. You're supposed to reflect yourself onto the actor. The actor isn't supposed to be reflecting onto you, because guess what? We don't care about your stories. We care about the stories of the character you're playing. I can think of a whole lot of jobs more important than representing 21 million people. You know, like a single fireman. That's a significantly more important job than playing an actress. Being an adult pretender and complaining of that to your co-star is a bit creepy and a bit of a stalker in the film you're working on. You are literally in the most privileged position of anyone in the world, and you're over here whining about mood, death threats, wah this, wah that. How about you try doing a real job if you don't like being an actress? And of course, Zegler's out here playing her other roles, claiming that it's just a Schrodinger's joke. You know, it's true that people agree with it, but it's a joke if they don't agree with you. They're claiming that the prince was a creepy role and that she wasn't a princess looking for love, that she had other ambitions. And the love story could become cut out entirely. To which he says, it can be very upsetting when things get taken out of context or jokes don't land. Guess what? It wasn't a joke, very clearly, and it wasn't taken out of context. The video's played in full context whenever it's mentioned. She then follows up saying the love story is very integral, and I'm sure it is now with the 3 different rounds of reshoots this film has gone under. The article continues trying to humanize it by talking about the film strikes. You know, the ones that went terribly for anyone who isn't currently working. Guess what? The film strikes, sure, they won, but at what cost? Well, the cost of 90% of the film industry jobs. Not only the top 10% of actresses and film work crew can actually do anything. And sure, those 10% are doing a whole lot better, but what about the 90% who aren't? So she says, I was really scared of being replaced by an artificial intelligence version of myself that way they scanned when I was 18. Well, guess what, Zegler, honey? You're safe. Ain't no one gonna bother working with an AI version of you. They're just gonna get someone who can actually act. They'd be better off with a completely computer-generated AI than one based off of you, so that way it has at least a little bit of personality. And then the article playing up the nice little controversy between Zegler and her co-star Gal Gadot, who of course we all know is Iranian, and Zegler is a hardcore pro-Palestinian who had made several comments, including at the end of an interview starring Gal Gadot, said, "Free Palestine," which of course we all know is going to upset Gal Gadot because she is Iranian who served Iranian military. But what's Zegler's defense for this one? Well, I just can't watch children die. Won't someone just think of the children? She's really got it all. This piece is doing everything they can to defend her. It's a pointless mess, and it's so unbelievably scripted and excessively puffy. We make a chihuahua look huggable. So, to absolutely no one's surprise, of course the industry is playing ball with Zegler and going on defense for Disney, but it's not going to do anything because this article is so unbelievably evidently a puff piece designed to make her look far better than she actually is. No one's going to buy into it. It is absolutely evident to anyone who's not completely disingenuous that this is all a lie to make her look better. It's completely obvious that this is all being done so they can hopefully recoup some of the costs of the new Snow White movie. Because prior to the current round of reshoots and the fact that before the delay that was for over a year, it was looking like the budget was going to be over $200 million. Now a little bit it's going to balloon up to at least $300 million, if not $400 million, which guess what? That means they're going to have to make $600 million at the very least just to break even. Not to make a budget, not to make a profit, simply to break even. Can I think they do it? Hell no. People are tired of this. If the previous Little Mermaid movie didn't break even, where Hailey Bailey wasn't making the most egregious of statements, she was mostly keeping her mouth shut, and in no way shape or form is this movie going to make any kind of waves. Especially with Daily Wire looking to put their version out at the same time to form competition, because of course that movie has actually hired someone who matches the description: skin white as snow, hair as black as ebony, or as close to that as you can humanly get. But hopefully these ultra-wealthy losers just keep running their mouths and ruining their careers even more, because I have zero issue with that. I look forward to it every single time one of them tries to ruin their career, because it just tells me I don't have to go see a movie, and I can save 2 hours of my life, and I can save $20. So go on, Zegler. Keep saying that the only reason people hate you is because you're a woman. Keep saying it's only because you're brown, and keep blaming everything other than yourself, when in reality you're the only center of onus that exists. And while you keep whining about this stuff, we're going to keep laughing at you because that's all you deserve, is ridicule. But that's all I've got for this one. Let me know down in the comments if you think this movie has any chance of succeeding whatsoever, and I will see you guys on the next one.